What if I told you that the outcome of the most anticipated match at WrestleMania 42 was decided not inside the ring, not during a promo, not at a contract signing, but in a quiet hallway in Las Vegas, just hours before the first bell rang, when a man in face paint and black attire pointed his finger at the most dangerous athlete on the planet and whispered words that may have changed everything. Stay with me, because what I am about to tell you is going to completely change the way you watch Omos versus Brock Lesnar tonight. For weeks now, wrestling fans everywhere have been locked in on what has been one of the most physically intense build-ups in recent WrestleMania history. We watched it all unfold in real time. It started at the Royal Rumble, when Omos steamrolled through 5 competitors in that match, including Brock Lesnar himself, before eventually being eliminated. That moment alone was enough to set the tone for everything that followed. Then came the March 16th episode of Raw, where Omos answered Brock Lesnar's open challenge and made a statement that nobody in that arena or watching at home could ignore. He powerbombed the Beast, stood over him, placed one foot on his chest, and then looked directly at the WrestleMania sign as if he was announcing his destiny out loud. And just last week on the go-home edition of Raw, the two men were brought together for a contract signing that completely fell apart. Security could not contain them. Fines meant nothing. Furniture was destroyed, chaos erupted, and the cameras captured every single second of it. By the time it was over, there was no question in anyone's mind that these two men genuinely despise each other and that WrestleMania 42 was going to be an absolute war. But here is what the cameras did not capture. Here is the moment that has been living rent-free in my head ever since I heard about it. In those final hours before the show, deep in the backstage corridors of Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada, someone else entered the equation. Someone who does not throw punches, someone who does not execute suplexes or power bombs, someone who operates on an entirely different level of danger. That someone is Danhausen. Now I know what some of you might be thinking. Danhausen? Seriously? But hear me out, because if you have been paying close attention since he made his way to WWE from AEW, you already know that this man's track record with curses is genuinely unsettling. He cursed Rey Mysterio, and shortly after, Mysterio lost the Intercontinental Championship to Penta in a match that nobody expected to go that way. He cursed The Miz, and The Miz ended up getting accidentally leveled by Jelly Roll on his own show, Miz TV, of all places. There was even a referee who got caught in the crossfire of one of Danhausen's curses and literally could not complete a 3 count. These are not coincidences. These are patterns. And when a man with that kind of pattern starts pointing his finger at someone, you pay attention. The footage that surfaced is grainy, shot on a cell phone by someone who clearly was not supposed to be in that part of the building. But what it shows is undeniable. Danhausen, fully dressed in his signature face paint and black ring attire, tracked down Brock Lesnar in a corridor far removed from the main locker room area. And the detail that stands out most is that Lesnar was completely alone. No Paul Heyman whispering in his ear, no security detail, no entourage. Just the Beast, standing in silence, preparing mentally for the biggest match of his year. Danhausen walked toward him with that slow, deliberate energy he always carries, and what happened next is the part that genuinely gave me chills when I first heard it described. Lesnar did not flinch. He did not step back. He just stood there. And Danhausen raised his finger, locked eyes with the most feared man in professional wrestling, and in that hollow, unsettling monotone voice of his, he delivered the curse. He told Brock Lesnar, very nice, very evil, that he would not be leaving WrestleMania as the winner. Lesnar laughed. Of course he did, because that is who Brock Lesnar is. He is a man who has broken bones, ended careers, and conquered every obstacle this industry has ever placed in front of him. A man in face paint talking about curses is not going to shake him. Except then Danhausen reached into his pocket and pulled out that jar he always carries, the one filled with his collection of teeth, and he threw them directly at Lesnar. Brock swatted them away without hesitation, but the footage does not lie. For just a fraction of a second, in those eyes that have stared down legends and giants alike, there was something, a flicker, a moment of uncertainty that lasted no longer than a heartbeat, but was there nonetheless. And that is all it takes, because once Danhausen's curse is in motion, there is no reversing it. There is no counter move, no antidote, no way to outrun it. The seed has been planted, and from that point forward, the only question is when it blooms. I've been turning this over in my mind constantly, and the question I keep coming back to is this: why Brock Lesnar? Danhausen has gone after mid-card talents, backstage personalities, referees, even social media influencers who wandered too close. But choosing to curse Brock Lesnar is a completely different level of audacity, and audacity like that rarely comes without a reason. So I started thinking about who might have motivated this, and the possibilities are genuinely fascinating. Paul Heyman has spent months operating like a chess grandmaster, moving pieces around the board that most people do not even know exist. He already has Gunther aligned with him after Gunther made it clear he felt Heyman owed him something significant following the situation with Seth Rollins. Is it really so far-fetched to consider that Heyman might have reached out to Danhausen as an additional layer of protection, as insurance for an outcome he absolutely cannot afford to leave to chance? And then there is the other possibility. What if this was Omos himself? The Nigerian giant has been relentlessly focused on Lesnar for weeks, but he is also calculated in ways that people underestimate. He understands that a curse does not physically injure anyone. It does not snap a limb or open a cut. But what it does is plant doubt, and doubt in the mind of Brock Lesnar, even the smallest, most fleeting amount of it, is an opening that Omos absolutely has the power to walk through. When a man of Lesnar's caliber steps into that ring without 100% of his mental clarity, that is precisely when a 7-foot, 400-pound force of nature does the most damage. And there is one more dimension to this that I think people are not fully considering yet. Danhausen's curses do not operate in isolation. They have a way of spreading, of affecting not just the target, but the entire atmosphere surrounding that person. Everyone in Lesnar's orbit, anyone who counts on him, believes in him, or is aligned with him in any way, is touched by what was set in motion in that corridor. So if the moment comes at WrestleMania 42, when Omos stands over Brock Lesnar for the third time, when he finally claims the victory that solidifies his place among the all-time giants of this business, Danhausen will be in the back somewhere, nodding knowingly. And honestly, he will have earned that nod. Because in a sport defined by raw power, elite athleticism, and iron-willed determination, sometimes the strangest variable ends up being the most decisive one. The fans filling Allegiant Stadium and chanting for Omos may not realize it, but part of the momentum that got their guy to this moment belongs to a man who collects teeth and speaks in a monotone whisper. Brock Lesnar was cursed. He laughed, he swatted the jar away, and he walked back into his preparation as if nothing happened. But doubt is not something you can swat away. It is a seed, and once it finds soil, it grows whether you want it to or not. Tonight, when the lights are at their brightest and Omos is standing across the ring from the beast with the entire world watching, I want you to remember what happened in that corridor in Las Vegas. Remember the finger that was pointed, the words that were spoken, and that single flicker in Lesnar's eyes. Very nice, very evil, and make no mistake about it, very, very real. Now I want to hear from you. Do you believe Danhausen's curse is genuinely going to be a factor tonight? Or is this all just atmosphere and storytelling that means nothing once that bell rings? And more importantly, do you think anything in this world, curses included, is actually capable of stopping Brock Lesnar? Drop your thoughts in the comments section right now, because this conversation is one I absolutely want to have with all of you. And if you want to be part of every revelation, every backstage development, and every real story happening behind the curtain and inside the ring on the road to and beyond WrestleMania, then you already know what needs to happen. Subscribe to Wrestling Juice, hit that notification bell so you never miss a single upload, and let's keep digging into this together. Because after everything that went down in Las Vegas before the show even started, I genuinely do not think any of us are fully prepared for what is about to unfold. I will see you in the next one.